Hello, the Faniac is back and just in time to review the first episode of She-Hulk. Okay, I've seen reviews for this show left and right. Rarely have I seen a bad review, and mostly positive. Last I checked, it's 87 on Rotten Tomatoes. Was very, very concerned, and from what I could tell, so were a lot of people when the first trailer dropped. So I was really interested in seeing where this TV show would end up. Well, turned out to be something. Um, where to start? Okay, so the plot of the first episode at least deals with, it opens with Jennifer Walters, who is, attorney at law, the lawyer, like, She-Hulk attorney at law. And so it opens with her giving a monologue, and you get to see an introduction with her and Bruce jabbing and jabbing until they get into a car crash, which from that results in Jen and Bruce's blood combining to allow her to become She-Hulk, and thus they go on a whole mission to train her to become a master of mastering her Hulk side, and so she could go back to being a regular lawyer. That's the plot here. It could work. You know, there's potential here for it to work. Does it though? Good question. Well, I guess let me poke fun at, I guess, what doesn't work. So, ironically enough, the really, really weird problem is the main character. She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters. I don't know that much about her, yeah. No, it's like, spoilers, people, just so you know. So if you want, don't even watch this video. But for those who watch this, it's like they don't even develop her. Like, and this is coming from a guy who actually reads the comic. This is the latest issue of the new series. I bothered to read this. Okay? So, from that perspective, from what I've been reading, She-Hulk is a very flamboyant personality who struggles to keep it in check. From the comics I've been reading, she's struggling to pay off her student debt. She is trying to master this side because there's clothes she can't fit into. She doesn't really belong in that body, which is why she tries to keep it to her normal side, which she can't control. But stuff gets in the way. So from a comic perspective, it sounds pretty interesting. I could work with that. So that was interesting. And when you get to see, spoiler to the comics, Jack of Hearts, and that relationship where they go down, that was pretty interesting. But, in the TV show, what do we know about her? Well, she's a lawyer. She likes talking about Steve Rogers, and how apparently his virgin... yeah, that's apparently, yeah, that's a long-running joke. Steve Rogers was a virgin, yeah, oh... I can definitely get into that, but let's put that aside for now. And analyzing from that perspective, the main problem is we are with Jennifer Walters throughout the entire episode, and we don't know that much about her. So it just gets me worried and just thinking, like, why do I want to go with this character? Why do I want to be with this character that the whole series we don't get to know that much about her? Like, literally, the first 3 minutes having her deal with a speech, okay, maybe she could be going up to the stand to give a talk, but no. She's just preparing to give a talk to her, I guess, her two friends, then breaks the fourth wall to be like, oh yeah, I'm the Hulk already, but let's flashback. So then they flashback to, I'm not even kidding, just a minute of footage of her talking with Bruce, and then before you know it, they get into a car crash from apparently, from the... I totally forgot the alien's name, so I'm just gonna... but yeah, remember those aliens from the Avengers? Yeah, apparently one of those ships came and attacked them. So, yeah, that is an even better point because they never bring that up again. Another weak point of that episode. But hey, you know, maybe they're gonna seed that for later. And that's a very big seed to plant, but whatever. And then from that car crash, Jennifer Walters gets out of the car and struggles to bring in Bruce. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. She talks to Bruce in his human form. And apparently, he's able to keep it in his human form like we saw in Shang-Chi. Apparently, they somewhat explain in this episode that he constructed a device to wear that keeps him in his human form. But the car crash damaged that. And his blood, and because Jennifer Walters had a cut on her arm, the blood from Bruce Banner, I'm not joking, drops onto her arm. And she just turns straight into the Hulk from there. Not to sound too critical, but I feel like we missed a scene there. Again, I haven't read that much She-Hulk comics. Granted, this is the new one. But, to be fair, I did watch the original 90s cartoon. And from there from what I remember from that episode, Dr. Victor Von Doom sent out a couple drones to attack the Hulk and Jennifer Walters, his cousin, as they were driving. They got into a crash. She was badly injured on the verge of death. So the only way to save her was to give her a blood transfusion, which I'm pretty sure is from the comics, but I could be totally wrong on that front. And from there, she changes into She-Hulk. But at least that makes sense. Because now Bruce's blood, who can handle that same gamma radiation, is similar to hers, which is why the transfer works. Which is why she gets, I guess, the gamma powers from him. Because at least that somewhat makes sense. Here, just a drop of blood out of him and she's She-Hulk now. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're missing a scene here. And then we just go straight, I think, to like Hawaii, where the majority of the episode is Bruce Banner trying to teach She-Hulk. But the weird part is that despite him trying to teach her, it's like they just kind of Rey from Star Wars and kind of have her be a pro at it already. For almost no reason. And I can get from the perspective of like, oh yeah, her training will be much different and her experience will be way different from Bruce Banner's. I'm fully up for that. I don't mind that. But just to have her be so good at it this quick, I'm not sold on that. Not yet, at least. Okay, I'll brush on this later. But like, and then they get into a little quarrel with destroying. Oh yeah, I forget. They destroy a bar because apparently Hulks can have a high metabolism, which they can drink a lot of alcohol without getting drunk. Well, that's forever in the plot canon, and so is. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Apparently they have a tribute to Pixar and Inside Out. Not that I ever thought it would be in the MCU, but it is now. Yeah, okay, but yeah, so when they're training and they're bantering, it's like, it's there. And then, like, after the fight, the Hulk's just like, okay, I guess you're better than me or something, go back to lawyering. And then she goes back, and then she goes back to her narrating, and then we get to see her go stand up about to deliver a speech when, boom, Titania from the freaking comics shows up, and all of a sudden her friend's like, dude, you Hulk out, no, do it. Okay, I have a choice, and I just barely put up a fight. But yeah, she takes off her shoes, hulks out, and I'm not even kidding, beats Titania in less than a minute. With pop song in the soundtrack too, no less. Oh, fudger. Okay. Yeah, no, that was an experience to see. But yeah, she's able to beat her with little to no experience of fighting in less than a minute, and then reverts back to Jen and just like, oh yeah, let me make my closing statements. It was a funny line, but yeah, okay. And then we get a mid-credit stinger, which goes back to that famous Steve Rogers joke. Oh, God. Okay, so apparently, yeah, gotta go back to this. There's an ongoing joke, apparently, just to, I guess, make banter with the Hulk, with her cousin Bruce Banner, the Hulk, about Steve Rogers. She's talking about him a lot and how, for some reason, he's a virgin. But then the twist was for Mark Ruffalo's Hulk to reveal, no, he lost his virginity. They're just like, ha, I knew it. And I'm like, but you, what? That's stupid. Whatever. It's done. I can't fix that. Whatever. It's canon now. I just have to deal with it. Okay, point being, that's my rant. That's the episode right there. There was a lot of stuff, for better or worse, that happens. Okay. Write up what don't I like about it. Jennifer Walters barely has a personality. We barely know anything about her. We're immediately rushed into her origin story without knowing barely anything about her. She immediately already has it, and then gives a 1-minute origin story that just leads into her just training it. I'm sorry, but like, do you not know how to write an origin story? Okay, look, let me use other examples like Moon Knight. Moon Knight started out with, oh yeah, like there was a mystery to the origin. Like it was established you already had it, but we didn't know what it was. So over the course of the first season, we build up to him knowing more about himself and what the suit is and how he came to have it. And we got to the origin part of it by like episode 5, which granted was a lot longer than I wanted to, but we still got there. And even then, Miss Marvel is ironically a lot better. And I was more worried about that one for a second. But let me put it into perspective this way. The first episode of Miss Marvel, what happens? She's a teenager. She wants to go to Avengers Con, but she has to be with the approval of her family, her mother, her father, her sibling, trying to fill into the shoes, trying to hang out with their friends while also trying to avoid the other crowds, while also trying to come to grips with what she wants to do with her life versus what she has to do with her life. It's a really interesting story. And we immediately get to know about her character. So when she gets the powers by the end of the episode, we're kind of like interested. We want to see what happens. Because we already know the character, and we now know why getting the powers is both a blessing for her and possibly a curse at the same time, because now we know the character. Jennifer Walters, on the other hand, we just get 1 minute of her talking to Bruce about not even her or Bruce, just Steve Rogers. And then immediately car crash, and then she becomes She-Hulk. Yeah. So, okay. Maybe here's maybe how it could have worked. Maybe, for example, let's rearrange it this way. We instead have the court case be the first scene. We see her at a regular job. She shows up to court. She does her job. She succeeds, but then, oh, wait a second, holy crap, her cousin Bruce shows up and he needs to talk to her. So she offers him a ride home. They drive on the way. All of a sudden, and they start talking about themselves. Oh, what are you doing, Bruce? Oh, well, I've been doing this. What have you been doing? You know, I'm doing this, and I'm kind of struggling. I wish I could, like, do more with stuff. Like, the job is kind of stressing me. I wish I could have someone hang out with, you know? Like, stuff like that. And then, oh, crap, the ship comes. Blast them. We have no idea what's going on. Then cut to the car crash. Then, cut to black, open up with Jen already in the hospital. And then pan to Bruce right next to her, sulking. And then he looks up to her saying, Jen, I'm so sorry. They had to do a blood transfusion. It was the only way. And then cut back to Jen, like, kind of a mixed face with smiling and awesomeness, but then kind of immediately sulking. She's like, yeah, that's cool. Oh, crap. Like that. And then, opening logos, basically repeat the training stuff, but kind of upped as Bruce and her both try to come at each other with the fact that it's a different experience, but still is difficult for both of them to manage. And thus leave on the note that she can control her anger. It's just that maybe it's her way of handling the character. Like, maybe the She-Hulk isn't another entity, but maybe further exposes a side she rarely shows or even secretly has. And then end with that fight. Have like a couple, maybe ask, what the F was that? And then be like, I don't know. And then do that. And just maybe have like a mid stinger with like General Thunderbolt Ross going up to the Abomination saying, "How many more of you are there?" And then he says something like, "Let me see my lawyer." Stuff like that. Easy. Boom. Done. That's how I would picture it happening, at least. That's about as much as I can do for that. Okay, but that's how I would fix those problems in terms of that. But what actually works? Well, the idea of the blood mixing with Bruce is kind of pulled from what I remembered from the comics, as far as I can tell. It does make sense to have the blood mix with her and to have her become She-Hulk. It's just the execution that is just... Oh, how did Deadpool put it? Yeah, lazy writing. Oh, fudger. Okay, yeah. And again, the general idea of Bruce kind of coming to grips that her training will be different from his is interesting. It's just not done well. Like, in the sense of, oh yeah, she's just better at it. No, like, maybe she'll be better at other stuff and then worse at other stuff. Like, have it be a different experience. Have them both struggle. Him not really being a teacher and trying to put what he's learning to use, but also realizing that from her perspective, she has a life to get back to. She wants to go back to a normal life. While he also has very similar feelings, because he's always wanted to do that. But he made peace, but she is not. Thus, we now see him seeing a mirrored version of himself in her cousin, trying to fix that, but realize he can't. And thus he's like, go, live your life. I can't help you. You put yourself in this corner. So, like that. Like, something like that. That is an interesting dynamic to explore. This is an interesting thing to dive into. So, there is cool stuff in this. And also, to put it in this format, it's also a loose continuation of The Incredible Hulk, which, in my opinion, is highly underrated. Like, easily one of my top 10 MCU movies. I mean, it's just freaking awesome. But it is a continuation. This show has the Abomination. And apparently it will also feature Wong and Daredevil. So I'm like, wow, there is a lot of cool stuff. Is any of that in this episode? No, not at all. But I'm gonna, right now, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this episode. Lots of cool stuff. And lots of cool stuff that is seeded too. Like the fact that maybe she's in control now, but maybe she could lose it the more and more she gets angry. They kind of see that here. They seed a lot of stuff in this first episode, which I'm down for waiting, because, let me put it this way. I watched the first episode of Dexter, and I watched the newer episodes too to compare it to see. And I will admit, I was not a fan of the first episode. I thought it was very rough, very over-narrated, very, like, so self-indulgent in the fact, oh yeah, this is what this character does, to just an annoying extent. But I could tell over the years of the show, they got better and better, with Dexter establishing a clear relationship with other characters, downing on the narration to establish him in a normal life, trying to adjust, but still just can't get rid of his killer instincts. It was interesting. It was rough, but it got better over time. So I'm just wondering if maybe that's the circumstance here. I mean, I really hope it is. But I'm going to come at it from that perspective. It isn't god-awful, like, oh god, is it bad? No. It's frustrating. It really is. But the worst I can say is that maybe it's average. It is an okay episode that I'll easily forget in a couple days. Which already is a very bad compliment, but let's face it, I've seen worse movies. So, okay. So, my rating, what I'm going to give it, I'm going to award She-Hulk 2.5 out of 5 lightsabers. This is now the lowest rating I've given to anything on my review so far. It probably might get lower when I do other stuff, but this is a sad day for sure. But I am eagerly, patiently waiting to see if hopefully this show gets better. I'm in loose optimism. This false optimism, I should say. This pilot episode for the show is very, very frustrating to get through, but does show potential in a lot of areas that I feel like, if properly explored, which also is another complaint, they really cram a lot in this episode. I was surprised it was half an hour. I mean, thank God it was. It was, like, thankfully short. But it does bring up a problem of which they cram in too much and don't leave enough room for explaining. So, from my perspective, take in the story I put in earlier, have it be 40 minutes, 10 minutes longer, give time to breathe and establish clear relationships, and also establish certain stuff that happens and allow it to be explained what the device is, how his training happened, what she's going through, what the hell was going on with that spaceship. Like, what the hell was going on with that spaceship? But whatever, screw it. Point being, I think it is an average episode, a frustratingly average episode that I'll easily forget in a couple days. That's my rant. I see potential. I'll wait it out to see if it gets better. Like, but I will say this: if I had to compare this to if I had to rank so far with the other episodes, like shows, like so far in terms of female-led projects from Marvel, we've had Captain Marvel, Black Widow, which were both movies, but whatever, WandaVision, and Miss Marvel, and now this. Sadly, Miss Marvel, which I was already freakingly really worried about, but turned out to be surprisingly good. I mean, it changed a lot of stuff for better or worse, but at least it stuck true to that and followed throughout, and it established a clear character I related to and was able to follow through. Jennifer Walters is a blank slate for an average anyone to fill their shoes into and just have it be like that. Nothing is established about this character that I could not get from even a basic comic book. But yeah, that's what I have to say about it. An okay episode. I'll wait it out. I guess, like, if you saw the trailer and you thought, oh yeah, that's like a sitcom, like for ladies. Okay, yeah, I'll watch that, sure. Yeah, okay. If you like the trailers, fine. I think you'll actually like this. But if you were like me and were really worried about the show and saw the potential when you saw Wong Abomination and also the potential with Bruce Banner, seeing it being a continuation while still driving into the multiverse with Daredevil 2 and all this stuff coming together, just wait it out for that stuff. That's all I can say for that aspect. But you know what? Actually, what did you guys think? I would really like to know what you all think. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree? I'm really curious to see what the reaction is gonna be. I don't really know. So far as I can tell, most people just think it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. That's the general reaction I'm getting so far. But I'm gonna wait and see if it's gonna grow to something else, like with the TV show. So, I mean, I'm really interested. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll put more videos out soon. Take care.